everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Nikki, and I am the Managing Director of Ingenious Personnel, which is a recruitment agency. If this is your very first time on this platform, this is where we talk about recruitment, we talk about how to get employed, we talk about everything that has to do with careers. And on today's topic, we are going to talk about a topic that we've been discussing this whole month, just trying to get awareness out there, and that is CV writing skills. What needs to go onto your CV? What does not have to go onto your CV? I'm going to be sharing 10 tips on what needs to go on and what does not need to go on. If this is your very first time joining us, we welcome you. If you are a returning subscriber, welcome back and welcome home. So let's get on to the tips. Tip number 1. Tip number 1. So the very first tip that I want to share with you is you want to keep your CV clean. You want to keep your CV clean. You want to keep the format of your CV clean. What that means is you want to keep the wording or the body of your CV on Arial 10. And what's going to be Arial 12 is your heading. So the body of your CV, when you type your actual CV, you want to keep the wording of your CV or the font of your CV on Arial 10. That is the body of the CV. And then you want to keep the headings on Arial 12. Okay, no fancy fonts, no fancy colors, no fancy pictures, no borders. Stay away from all of those things. Keep your CV clean, keep it neat, keep it, make it easy for the eye, make it easy to be readable. When it lands onto the recruiter's desk, she mustn't be blinded by fancy colors, fancy fonts, trying to figure out what's here, what's not here, stuff like that. So you want to keep the font of your CV Arial 10, the body, or when you are maybe highlighting something, you can make that Arial 12. Okay, so that's tip number 1. Now let's move on to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is that you do not want to capitalize. So what that means is when you're writing your CV, you don't want to write your CV in caps. Because if you do that, it shows, number 1, that you're being rude. Number 2, that you are lazy. And number 3, it just does not look professional. The only thing that should be in caps is maybe the body when you're separating your CV. For instance, you are now typing higher qualifications. That you can make in caps. And then you put your qualifications, but that isn't in caps. So then the next thing that you want to do is you want to keep everything in the correct format and not in caps. The only thing that is in caps, like I said, would be if you are breaking the sections of your CV. That is tip number 2. Tip number 3. Tip number 3, we're talking about the picture. Are you including the picture? Are you excluding the picture? I've seen CVs where the picture is there, and then I've seen pictures that are without the picture. So what I say is a picture is a personal thing. I cannot tell you not to have your picture if you want to have your picture on your CV. But I can tell you that should you choose to have a picture on your CV, it has to be a professional picture. For the ladies, if you're going to choose a picture to put on your CV, please make sure that you are covered. You're wearing a professional top, you're wearing a corporate jacket, and you're covered from here. Okay, make sure that there's no skin that is showing on that picture. If you are also going to choose to have a picture on your CV, it has to be a half card, just showing this part of you, like the pictures we put on our LinkedIn profiles. So it has to be like a half card that is just showing, the top part, your face. Stay away from, if you're going to put a picture, don't put the whole picture where it's literally showing your entire body, unless you're applying to be a model. But if you're just applying to work in a corporate business, then you really we don't need to see your entire body on how you look like. Also, stay away from group pictures. Yes, I know this sounds like, why would somebody put a group picture there? People do that. So if you're going to put a picture, stay away from group pictures. Stay away from pictures where you were maybe out that night and you decided to take a picture, and for some reason you thought that was cute and you put that on your CV. Don't do that. It does not look professional. Stay away from, I've seen this a lot. Ladies, stay away from car selfies or taxi selfies. I've seen people taking pictures in the car and they put that on their CVs. If you are going to put a picture on your CV, have somebody take that picture. Then you edit it properly and it looks professional. And then you can put that picture on your CV. If it is not like that, just do not put a picture on there. There's absolutely nothing wrong if you don't put your picture on your CV. There's nothing wrong. Like I said, unless you're applying to be a model or a position that needs you to look good, or they want to see how you look like, then you can put that picture there. But if you're just applying for a position within a private sector, public sector, doesn't matter, you really do not need to put your picture there. That was tip number 3. Now let's move on to tip number 4. Tip number 4. So tip number 4, let's talk about the file format. What type of file format do you or should your CV be when you are sending it to decision makers? So I always say this, there's nothing that drives me crazy like a scanned document. And the scanned documents, when we receive them, they are not as clear as when you went to the internet cafe. I don't know, but I'm sure a lot of recruiters will agree with me, because sometimes the scanned version documents are, there's just too much that we have to do in order to turn the pages around, etc., etc. So if you are going to scan your CV, of which I hope not, because we've moved away from scans now, there's emails. So if you are still that person that is still scanning, stand next to the person that's scanning your documents and make sure that when your documents go out, they are in the correct order. And when they land onto the next person, that person will just immediately receive them. They'll see what they won't have to work to get to your actual CV. So make sure that if you're going to scan, stand there, make sure that it is correct. If not, and you are going to email your CV, when you do send an email, I always say, you don't know where your CV is going to land on whose hands. So rather PDF that document than over sending a MS Word document. So PDF it or type it in your nice Word document. When you're done, you then PDF it and you use that version to apply for position, because not only is it easier when we receive it, it's also easier and much safer for you. Okay, so that is the version that you want to use when you are applying for positions. You type it, you PDF it, you send it as a PDF file. You stay away from scanned CVs, and if you are going to scan, stand there, make sure that it is scanned correctly. That's tip number 4. Now let's talk about tip number 5. Tip number 5 is the myth around how long your CV should be. How many papers should your CV be? I've also seen this. You do get companies that will say, keep your CV short to a maximum of 2 or 3 pages. If you come across those companies, the information that you put on those 2 to 3 pages must be relevant information. Go back, look at the job description. What is it that they're looking for? Customize the CV according to the job description, because that way you have hit the job description on point, you're on point. because the last thing that you want to do is to do all this work and you still not called for the interview. You want to listen to all my videos and you still not making it to the interviews. So if you get a company that says maximum 2 to 3 pages, take the job description, take your CV, put as much information that they have on the job description, match it, customize it, and then you use that version to apply. I always say this when I talk about customization. Only customize with the experience that you do have. You do not customize with the experience that you do not have, because that would be providing incorrect information. It would be a lie. So you customize your CV according to the information and the skills set that you have. All right. However, with that said, I believe, which is my own philosophy, it is better to have enough information on your CV. Do not limit yourself. If you come across a position and they are not saying that you should maximum 2-3 pages, make sure you put as much information on there as possible. Take your current job description. If you are in a job, take your current job description and you literally copy and paste your current job description onto your CV. If not, and you're dealing with a recruiter and maybe you have not had the time to do so, because some people, their CVs are not updated. You do get passive candidates that are not actively on the job market, and normally their CVs will not be updated. You can email that through to your consultant, depending on the relationship that you have with your consultant, obviously. All right. So I always say the more duties you have on your CV, the better your chances. You never ever want the next person to assume, especially a recruiter or a hiring manager. You do not want them to assume that you have the experience. You want them to see that you have the experience. Therefore, you need to put the experience there so that they can see that this person has taken the time and the effort to put onto the CV, because it's small things like that that we do pick up. So that was tip number 5. Let's now move on to tip number 6. I am looking on my notes. So tip number 6 is you do not want to use abbreviations. Oh, this one drives me crazy. You do not want to use abbreviations. If you are born in the 80s like myself, then abbreviations is something you don't understand. We don't understand abbreviations or WYD. I don't understand slang, guys. I won't be able to read your CV if you've written your CV in a slang language, and that is just going to frustrate me, and I'm just going to move along and get someone else's CV that is serious about life. So you don't want to write in abbreviations, not just on your CV. Even when you're communicating with your recruiter or your consultant or the hiring manager, you do not want to write in abbreviations. Please write in a correct grammar, correct English. Write in full sentences. Don't write in abbreviations, because it's not everybody that understands abbreviations. Old people like myself do not understand abbreviations. So now let's move on to our next tip, tip number 7. Tip number 7 is that you want to highlight your stability. What does that mean? Highlighting your stability means that you leave no gaps open. If you were on a job or in a job and then you were on a contract and that contract came to an end, let's say you were there for 6 months and then that contract came to an end and you were now unfortunately at home and you were seeking employment for maybe 2 months, and then from there you got another position and you started working again. So now we see a gap on your CV. We do not want to see a gap, especially if it's longer than 6 months. If the gap is longer than 6 months, make sure to close the gap, because you have to close the gap. Anything could have happened in 6 months. We don't know. You could have been maybe in jail. You could have been in hospital. You could have been, we don't know. And you really do not want people to assume what you've been doing for that period. So you want to make sure that you cover the gaps on your CV. Okay, you highlight your stability. So if there was an open, you make sure that you close it. Now let's move on to tip number 8. Tip number 8. I absolutely love talking about this topic, guys, and I'm always sharing 10 tips, but there's just so much that I can share in terms of CV writing skills. So now let's go on to tip number 8. Tip number 8 is you do not want to use anybody's email address but yours. You don't want to use your company's personal email address. You want to stay away from using your company's email address, because if you're not there at work and somebody happens to be on your PC, then they will see your communications with your consultant, your recruiter, with the HR manager, it doesn't matter. And also, which is most importantly, it is against most company policies. You are not allowed to do that. It's against the company policies. So do not do it. Use your own personal email address. Do not use your husband or wife or friend or mother or sister or whatever's email address. If you do not have an email address, create one. It's free. Create your own email addresses, your email address, so that you can communicate directly with your consultant or recruiter. Stay away from using other people's email addresses, because now your recruiter, if they send you a message and it comes to me and you've used my email address and I'm not seeking employment, then I'll have to explain where are you. It's also time consuming for the recruiter, and the recruiter is probably thinking, but how? This person is not serious. They don't even have an email address. So you want to use your own email address. If you do not have an email address, please go and get an email address right now. That is tip number 8. Now let's go on to tip number 9. Tip number 9 is, I've seen this a lot. A lot of candidates do this. When you're sending an email and you're sending your CV to a client or to a recruiter, and you're typing Nikki Kamte, genius, you do want to hide the distribution list. So I understand, when you are actively on the job market, you tend to get a lot of recruiters' email addresses. And don't show everybody's email address on the body, on that, when you're sending it on that too. If you're going to do that, BCC everybody else and send the email address to yourself. Not only that, it is now against the law to share people's personal email addresses or contact details. Doesn't matter. It's against the law. It's against the POPI Act. You cannot do it anymore. So if you if you are sending your CV to a recruiter, BCC everyone and send the email to yourself if you're wanting to save time. That is tip number 9. So tip number 10, I'm sort of giggling because it sounds so cliche, and I know a lot of people are going to ask, but why would you apply if you don't attach your CV? People do. Your CV must be attached. That's why we come onto these platforms and we talk here and we talk about CV writing, CV skills, and do not forget to attach your CV on your application. Sometimes I come across on you know, these portals, and I see candidates, they thought they've attached the CV, but it's actually a bank statement, or it's actually a personal detail, or maybe it's a mom's ID, or maybe it's a form that they completed, and it's not the actual CV. Please, guys, if you're sending your CV and you're serious about finding employment, when you attach your CV, whether that's on PNet, on Careers24, Career Junction, LinkedIn, whatever, even if you're sending it as the body of the email, attach your CV. Attach the actual CV that you've spent so much time creating, tweaking, making it look good. Attach that one. Double check that it's that one. Okay, because we do come across where candidates, they think they've attached the correct CV, and it's not the CV. Okay, that was my last tip, guys. And I will be, you know, we've got a career expo coming up, which I am so excited about. It's going to be taking place at KwaZakele. The details are on our website. We're going to be talking about careers, how to move from one job. We've got speakers that are coming to tell you, HR specialists that will be the guest at that event. I am looking forward to seeing everybody. I cannot wait to meet everyone. And yeah, take care, and I'll see you on my next content. If you have not subscribed yet, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this content if you found value in it. Thank you. Stay safe.